All right, you're on.
All right, good evening. The time is 6:01, and we are going to call the Cleveland Community Police Commission Police Training Committee meeting to order. And I will start with the roll call. Commissioner Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Present.
And Commissioner Chura is absent and excused absent. And then I, Commissioner Donaldson, I am present. All right, so looking at the agenda, does anyone have any comments about it? All right, and then I do want to take a moment to thank anyone who is joining us online, as well as the person who is here. So thank you for attending tonight. We do have a pretty healthy agenda. Hopefully we'll be able to get through most of it, so we'll see how it goes. Public comment at this point, I don't believe we have anything. All right. Well, we are already ahead. So let's start with old business. So the first thing I want to talk about is the reality-based scenario training community event that we have scheduled for August. So our initial date was August the 17th, but I was notified that the police department would prefer August the 24th, which is the following Saturday. So that's what we're gonna move forward with. At this point, I have had a conversation with the principal of the high school that we're looking at. And my next step is going to be to schedule a walkthrough so that we can make sure that that space will meet our needs for the event. And then once that's determined, we will then move forward with having the work group planning meetings so that we can start putting all the details for the event together. Luckily, since we did this in December of last year, we have some feedback that we received. We have notes on how things went the first time. So I don't think we'll really have a lot of things to plan through, but we're obviously still gonna have some planning meetings just to make sure that we're on track with how we want the event to look. And I think that's pretty much it. So I'll definitely keep everyone posted on the walkthrough. My hope is that we could do that sooner than later. I'm actually trying to maybe get some availability together to have that walkthrough on Friday. So I'll keep everyone posted on that. And then the high school we're looking at is Garrett Morgan High School. So that's that. That's all I have. Next, travel and training requests, GPO. I know that Commissioner Benito has some things that she wants to share about that.
So I think that there are some updates that we need to make to the GPO. Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good.
Should we just do it collaboratively on this right now, do you think? Okay, thank you.
You want to
Oh, I
put
can
yours in?
Yeah, maybe that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, everybody.
And then if you don't mind, just give like a brief recap on what it is. Thank you.
Oh, no. What's the thing that's in the corner?
Oh, that's the.
Like.
It's my.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
my. Oh, okay.
Put your mic on anyway. Okay. All right. So, just for some context, so through the policy committee, we received the training and travel and training request GPL for review, and that was sent over to us to kind of review and make changes on, and then to send it back to the policy committee. So I had a great meeting with Lieutenant Smith and Commander McGruth, and some of the thing that we've been grappling with was the question about officers who might be taking external training that maybe that the content is problematic or contrary to the kind of approach that CDP is trying to take. So an example of that there was an incident where there was a conference by a street cop, and the presenters that were up on stage were saying some really problematic things, and and so the division put out a divisional notice saying that officers couldn't take training from street cop. So their question was, how do we catch things like that? And it's too hard to try to, like, we can't keep a database of every training that is out there for police officers. We can't attend every training so that then we can evaluate it. So the question became, how do we do that? So the things that we talked about doing, adding to this GPO was one, putting something in, and this was from the conversation that we had. One is putting in something into the GPO that says that officers are still required to follow the policies and procedures of the division, regardless of what they might hear in a training. And so, in terms of putting that in, I have some language that Commander McGruth said. I think the question was where in the GPO that should go. So in some way that I think it might make sense to put it under section 2, like as a C, or if it should be under member responsibility. In some ways I think it kind of makes sense to have it under member responsibilities. So maybe like here, and turn this into C. Put the language here. What do we think about this draft language?
And you said that's under member responsibility. What was the title of this section?
Member responsibility.
Okay, got it.
So it says members acknowledge that regardless of training received, they shall adhere to all division policies and training standards. Submission of a training request serves as acknowledgement of this requirement. So one thing we talked about is on the actual form that they would fill out in blue team, that there would actually be an acknowledgement that they would have to click that says that they that they acknowledge that. So,
But also with the training, because we can't control if an officer want to pay for training outside when he's
Right.
off, that they acknowledge that no matter what training they receive, that they are allowed to, they must follow our policies.
yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so that wouldn't just be for training that officers are having paid by the division, but any training they receive.
And then the part about external or any trainings they receive, is that in there as well, or should we add?
We should add.
We should add that. Okay.
So, but it says regardless of all the training, should it be like regardless of training received, whether paid for by the division or by the individual officer?
I
I think
personally
instead of saying members
think-
acknowledge, just say regardless.
Well, I like the language that was there. I was gonna say maybe have that part be a separate sentence
Okay.
instead of putting it into that. But
Where's
Ryan,
that?
I was just going to comment, yeah, I think because it mentions later that submitting well, I guess you wouldn't submit a training request for something you're just doing on your own.
that's
Right.
Yeah, so I think the whether paid for by the division or the individual officer part can be a sentence.
Can be
Maybe.
one.
I think that part about whether paid for by the division or the individual officer can be a separate sentence.
Okay.
Maybe before or after the submission of training requests. I don't really know where it goes, but
I think it could be right after. It could be this applies to trainings. This applies to trainings paid for by.
I wouldn't just say paid for, because some of the training is free, so
Mhm.
approved by
Approved,
the.
thank you. This applies to trainings approved by the division.
so even free trainings or trainings that they seek outside are still approved.
So
Like what
there's
you're
three
saying?
things that can happen. It can be a paid training, it can
Come to the mic.
You might as well sit at the table since you're in this.
okay. So, this is,
You have to turn on the
okay, so there's three things that can happen. A member can attend training approved by the division that's paid by the division. They can attend training approved that's free training by the division, or they can attend training on their own outside the division that they pay for, or free training that they're on their off time that they didn't request to have division time or paid for by the division.
And that last one does not get approved beforehand or reviewed or anything.
Right.
Okay, got it.
How about this applies to all trainings approved by,
Trainings regardless of whether it was approved by the city or something.
yeah. Regardless of whether they were approved by or paid for by the division. Okay, so members acknowledge that regardless of the training received, they shall adhere to all division policies and training standards. Submission of a training request serves as acknowledgement of this requirement. This applies, the standard applies.
Yeah,
The standard applies to all trainings regardless of whether they were approved by or paid for by the Division of Police. Okay. And then the next section, so sections 1 and 2 will need to do so we talked about doing, we talked about having a procedure. We talked about doing a procedure where officers will in blue,
After they
what's it called
after
again?
they return from training, that they will type up in blue team, when they
Blue team.
return, they will type up a response to how effective the training was and what they thought of the training. Is it
So were any
should be
different-
used, any concerns,
Yeah.
and should it be used again or should it not be used, and why?
Then we also talked, and then also on the front end, in the approval individual request, that this would be sent to the training division, where the training division would do a search to make sure that the training body doesn't have any concerning issues similar to like what happened to street cop, and then the training division would approve it. So I think that would probably go.
And also they talked about if it's a paid training by the division and you get reimbursement, if you don't fill out the response, you will not get reimbursed until the response.
So I think that maybe this goes here under 4, that says that, that travel training request will be routed, would that be the right word, to the training section for a review of for a background review of the training organization. Yeah, but they won't necessarily have the,
Curriculum.
Just.
Credibility.
yeah,
Just to sort of like, if there's, it's one of those sort of things where you can put, I mean, obviously they're gonna keep their curricula to themselves, because that's their
Right.
product they're selling, so. But even like a cursory view of some of their websites, sort of, maybe at least sort of go on and say, oh, they've got a, you know, some, it's sort of thing where you might like, sort of, you know, you see anything that's like, oh, you know, blatantly unconstitutional or something in their training, you know, like, it's,
any press,
Misinformation.
public, or media coverage, and any materials, any training materials
yeah, thing that they have available.
available
Well,
if the training section finds concerning materials or concerning information, the request shall be denied, and the training organization will be added to a list.
I don't know about denying it. We will make a recommendation for the chief to approve or deny.
Okay, the request, the training section shall make a recommendation to the chief. Would you capitalize chief?
Yes.
To the chief for a denial of the request.
Approval or denial. Yeah, denial or approval.
Except I think that what we're saying is that in this process, if you guys were to find concerning information,
We will relay that to the chief. It's up to the chief to deny or approve training. It's not our decision. We
okay,
can make a recommendation, and upon our recommendation, the chief makes that decision.
okay. Kind of what we talked about was then if you found that information, we would then move that organization onto a list that would say like officers for like, then like a divisional notice would go out saying that officers should not take trainings from this organization. So are you saying that you would make that recommendation to the chief?
Yes, we will make all recommendations to the chief. This is the chief's decision.
Would make a. What do you think?
What if we just say the training section shall forward the request to the chief and just leave it at that? Because at that point, it's when the chief would decide. I don't know if we necessarily would need to say what, I mean, we could say that the training section shall forward the request to the chief for review.
For a final decision.
Shall forward the such concerns or these concerns
So,
to the chief for their final review.
I don't think it should just be concerns. It should just be recommendations. Because we can recommend approval or, recommend that this is what's going on with this training, or it could be recommended that this training be approved. You're right, it could be recommended this training denied because of this, this, and this, or it's approved because this and this and this. So it's our recommendations to the chief for final decision.
But I think what we're trying to say here is if you find concerning information, then what do you do?
Whatever we find, we're gonna recommend to the chief, right? If
Right,
it's-
so that's
if
what
it's
I'm saying.
concerning information, we'll recommend not attending this training because such and such.
Okay.
Or we will recommend attending this training because of such and such.
Right, because right now we're just specifically talking about finding concerning information. So it would be that if you find concerning information, that would then,
Concerning information will be developed, we develop the list from. The recommendations, I think it's two different things we're talking about. If we find concerning information, we would develop a list and the list with that information. So when we get requests from those places, we can make those recommendations automatically. Hey, this is what it's.
right,
So we develop a list from feedback from officers and from searching websites and things like that.
but I think you would, so you would have that, but you would also potentially, like, let's say an officer prior to what happened, if there hadn't been as much publicity around street cop as there had been, what if in the search you had a situation like someone said, I want to attend this training by street cop, and then your office did a search and they like found all this stuff, then at that point are you saying that the process would be to add them to the list first
We would
and then
I'm sorry.
and then deny their request?
Again, we can't deny any training or approve it. It has to be the chief that denies or approves.
Right, so
training.
I'm saying you would
So-
recommend to the chief to deny it.
That would be our recommendations based on what we found.
Right.
So
So maybe we
then
say
we
that
will put street cop on a list. So as soon as it come up next time, we'll have a database. We'll search that list, and so we wouldn't have to do as much research. We'll have that list, and we'll be able to automatically just go to that list and say, hey, this is what we recommend to the chief, and it's the chief's decision.
based on the relevant information or the training. Maybe what we say is the search shall section shall make a recommendation for approval or denial based on this review.
I think that captured because it's going to be approved or denied. And then they will be forwarding whatever information that was found. So that to me makes sense to just leave it at that.
And then what we talked about in Commander Magoo, Lieutenant Smith and I had talked about that then the training committee would do an annual review of looking at these requests that came in and, looking at the review that was done and the recommendations that were made, just to make sure that we feel good about like how that process is going. We talked about whether that should be in the GPO, but because that's something that we're doing on our side, like our policies and procedures, I didn't think it made sense to put in the GPO. And then it could be item 5 to say trainings denied based on background reviews. Trainings denied. So basically organizations, this would be how we describe the list.
So we had some language that says the training section shall,
No, go ahead.
the training section shall maintain and regularly updated list of disapproved training courses and providers. This list will be referred during the vetting process to ensure compliance with division standards.
There you go. Okay. And then the last thing is the evaluation form that we talked about completing after. So right now, what it's in here is that training documentation. So maybe it goes under this section, under training documentation.
Yes. We were talking, sorry, we were talking about completing the,
The evaluation.
creating a fill in the blank questionnaire form that makes it easier for the officers to, when they return from training, to fill in the blanks of the training and submit that evaluation to help us next time and vet the companies and the people providing training.
So maybe we have another section here that's post-training evaluation, and it says after completion or upon completion. Officers will complete, and do you want to call it like an evaluation form or?
Yes.
Evaluation form that addresses the following questions.
Actually, you didn't have to make that a section because A up there is already training documentation. That's afterwards. We'll change the
Just put it into there.
I guess you can all call that whole section B, post-training documentation, if that's what you want to do.
Oh, yeah,
Make that a B.
that's good. I might. There we go. Okay. So. What were some of the things we wanted? It was like effectiveness of the training, recommendations,
Future
future trainings,
the
recommendations,
how do you say it? More like the highlights of the training. What you call it? Like a post-training review of
Like a
summary or synopsis of the training.
Like any concerns that they might have about having gone like that, they said,
whether they would recommend other officers to take the training.
Specific issues.
Concerns about whether training conflicted
divisional policies.
Right.
And training, policies and training.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of at the time. Oh, we want to include who provided the training.
Proof of attending?
No, the
Oh, who provided it? No.
company, the instructor names.
Yep.
That way we can vet them, if they leave that company, go somewhere else and they provide.
Right, because we talked about this form could also be used by people who didn't get it paid for, right, like, or approved by the city, so after they attended a training, they could still submit this form. Company, instructor name,
Of course, the title of the training.
title, training, yeah.
Oh, one more, length of training. Want to know how long the training was.
I think that covered everything that we talked about adding. So then, the thing that goes along with this is that annually we would complete a review of just to, make sure that the review is being done and that, concerns were being caught. And we were really excited about this with Commander Maguth and Lieutenant Smith because I know there's been a lot of questions about how the training section can kind of provide some oversight of what training officers are receiving and also just provide the opportunities for them to be able to say, hey, the officers are getting this great training over here. We want to maybe bring those folks in to do a training for us or send more people to that. So I think that at this point, if there are no other concerns, I think this would be ready to give back over to the training, to the policy committee.
Got it. Thank you. I don't have anything to add at this point. Commissioner, okay, cool. All right.
Thank you, Lieutenant Smith.
You're welcome.
There you go.
Thank you. So next steps, you said policy committee. All right, so next on the agenda here, just want to briefly discuss the crowd management. So I attended a feedback review session. I really just observed that review session, and that was on May 29th, and we have received the policy. We received it yesterday. So next steps for that will be for the training committee to review that and then forward our comments or thoughts back to Commander Maguth, and then we'll go from there. Right, so moving on to new business. The items I have listed here, so the trauma-informed training, the CDP 2004 needs assessment, and the CDP 3-year training plan. These three items are items that have already been sent to the training committee and through full commission. So I don't think it's necessary for us to go through these documents line by line, page by page, but I do want to at least give the opportunity for either of you to provide any feedback you have on these documents, and then I can also pull them up here. So with trauma-informed training, we received the actual instructor manual and then the PowerPoint presentation itself that goes along with the instructor manual.
So I guess I'll just add a comment. I think that the training was well done. So I don't have any further questions or feedback.
And I do want to point out that I did go through the email that came along with this, and I confirmed all of the comments that came from the monitoring team and the DOJ were actually incorporated into the presentations. Commissioner Benito, do you have anything relevant to trauma informed?
No, I thought it looked good, and I thought the changes that they made based on the DOJ's comments look good.
Okay, got it. All right, and then with these, so just to provide a little bit more feedback, so initially sent to CPC on April 10th, feedback was returned based on the full commission and the training committee on April 29th. It was sent to DOJ and MT on April 29th, and then feedback was received on May 14th. And then it was sent to us again on May 21st. So that's why we're going through to make sure that we conduct the final review. From my understanding, this item, along with the needs assessment and training plan, does not need to then go back to full commission again because the full commission has already received and reviewed those items. So I just want to make that clear as well. All right, so would someone like to motion for us to approve this?
I move to approve the trauma-informed care training with the edits made post DOJ review.
Second.
Thank you. So a motion to approve the trauma-informed training with the edits added by DOJ and MT. So we will vote. Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
And I, Commissioner Donaldson, say aye as well. So that has been approved. Thank you. All right, and then next up here, we have the 2024 needs assessment. Again, this was also reviewed by the training committee and the full commission as well. There were some comments added into the needs assessment that I reviewed, and I also noticed Commander Magoo's comments back to DOJ. But just so everyone who might be watching knows exactly what this is. So this is basically a annual needs assessment, and it includes sections regarding, of course, curriculum that's going to be conducted in service training, supervisor training, entry academy training, field training, special skills training, and anything you want to add to that, Lieutenant Smith, about this particular document?
It's just created to guide us. Oh, Jesus.
It's great. It's designed to guide us on the training that we're going to provide in 24. We do an annual assessment of training to provide us a guideline for training. It's mainly what we're going to do, but sometimes we have different things come up that change that what we do. Like some things could happen that emergency needs with the department, and we aren't able to provide that training, or something happens and we have to move, or state mandate might come up. But for the most part, that guides us in what we're going to train for the following year.
Thank you. All right, and then any comments about this particular document?
Just that I think there was a lot of really positive feedback on this from the DOJ and monitoring team. So that was well done.
Thank you. All right, and then to add some background on this, so from my understanding, I did do a little bit of research, and I saw, so this was sent to the CPC November of last year. Feedback was returned April 16th, sent to DOJ and MT on April 19th. Feedback returned from them on May 20th, and then it was sent to us on May 31st. All right, so are we good with this document as well? I personally do not have anything to add. I also thought that it was pretty well put together document. thorough. And then I think the one thing that Lieutenant Smith just said is it's very important is that if there are any emergency needs or anything comes up, then training can always be incorporated throughout the year.
So I guess I just have just a general question, especially since the last thing that we did was crowd management too. Especially with the new law surrounding the constitutional carry state, how is the division preparing for that? Especially possibly with the election and possible events that may occur surrounding that.
Yeah, so that's one reason we developed crowd management and we changed our direction and focus just because of that. And that's why we're doing the crowd management. We've been trained on this before, so this is like a refresher training for us, especially with the open carry. We dealt with that on numerous occasions with open carry. So it's not something new to us. All of this is refreshing that training that we already have. And all of our training comes from where it's from, FEMA. We take the FEMA model. FEMA's come up here several times, and we have instructors that are certified through FEMA to provide that instruction. So we take our guidance from FEMA's training.
And then I just have one more question. In the from the previous, I'm trying to remember the report. In the needs assessment, it basically states that the after action report review gaps in like the mobile field force as well as PPE and possibly joint division of fire and EMS.
So
I guess has those been resolved, especially for the upcoming in-person training, annual training?
So we did order new PPE. It's been distributed to the first lines responders for that. We have tier 1, tier 2. So tier 1 has been issued, and all the recruits coming out is getting it. And as we get the new PPE, it's being issued to those people that's going to be responding first. So we are working with that, and that's part of this training also is working with PPE. And when we do these needs assessments, that's why we identify the gaps so we can add it to the training to make our training better.
Okay, so that would be this.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments? All right, so
Should we look at the 3-year? Maybe we could vote on both of them together.
yes, that is fine. That works for me. So 3-year training plan next year. I will pull that up. And then same with this document, I went through, I did notice the comments that were sent by DOJ, and then Commander McGuth responded to those as well. There weren't really many comments in this particular document here, but like I said, I did review to make sure that their questions were responded to. Do y'all have anything to add?
I have no concern, and I would love to make a motion to approve both the 3-year training plan and the 2024 needs assessment with the changes recommended by the DOJ and made by the CDP.
Second.
Thank you. So motion is to approve the CDP 2024 news assessment and the CDP 3-year training plan with the changes made by DOJ. All right, so we will move to vote. So Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and then I, Commissioner Donaldson, is aye. So that is approved. Thank you for that. All right, so I will take care of notifying Commander Magoo and then also Dr. Anderson about these approvals. All right, so next on the list here, the integrated reality-based training curriculum that we received as well for review.
Do we need to approve the changes to the,
Okay, sorry.
crowd management, oh, sorry. Do we need to approve the changes to crowd management also?
What was sent yesterday?
Yeah.
I didn't have that on the agenda since it was sent yesterday.
Okay, no
Yeah.
worries. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let me pull up the integrated reality training. So this included a PowerPoint, and there were videos throughout the PowerPoint as well. I'll just pull up the clean copy that I have here. All right, so this initial document just goes through the training scenario. And then I guess we can just start by seeing if there are any comments on this particular document. There is also the PowerPoint that I will pull up as well. All right, Lieutenant Smith, if you have anything you want to just add about this training scenario, we're going through it. For me, it definitely reminded me of what we saw in December at the community event. I have a couple of things I wanted to kind of point out, but they're very minor. But I don't know if you just wanted to like provide any comments on this particular scenario.
No, the scenarios are basically what you saw at the event.
Thank you. All right, let me just find that other document. I believe this is it. Yes, so this is the PowerPoint that goes along with the scenario. And then one question I had, this is annual, correct? Like the scenario, like.
Yes, it's a requirement with the consent agreement. It covers use of force, search and seizure, procedural justice. We have multiple scenarios, so we can, instead of training in silos, we add. So because we want officers to be able to critically think, we don't want them to go in a scenario and be like, oh, this is just search and seizure. So now they focus on search and seizure. So we combine use of force, search and seizure, procedural justice, bias-free, and sometimes we can't get all of them in one scenario, so we might make multiple scenarios to capture all of it several times.
Okay, thank you. And then this particular scenario, it's a brand new scenario, right? Is that how it works? You all develop
Every
from
year
scratch?
we develop new scenarios based on our assessment of where we're lacking. Say we find that they're using too much force in domestic violence, so we find out why and what happens, and we'll tailor those scenarios to that so we can bring that use of force down.
Got it. Thank you. And I did notice how this particular scenario included the a mental health aspect.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated not only the videos that went along with that, but the descriptions, the questions, that portion of it I thought was helpful and well done as well.
I thought the mental health and the domestic violence scenario were both fantastic. And I appreciated the kind of talking about the different resources for referral and also the kind of community piece where there were specific questions asking about what role does the community play in responding to mental health. And so I thought that was really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one other thing we're adding is POP and CPOP into these scenarios. We want our officers to be really thinking about what's going on, just not what they see right now, but look around. I always say, tell them we're paid to be nosy.
One thing though that I was wondering is, so there wasn't a similar section in the domestic violence scenario that listed out some of the different domestic violence resources. So I was thinking maybe that could be something that would be added, talking about, Journey for Safety and Healing, the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, some like the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and especially, and I think also maybe talking about the community aspect as well, because it is the neighbor who calls in that scenario. So, yeah, but I think that you have a really good template for that with the mental health section. So I think you could really duplicate that and then just put in some other things. The other thing that I was wondering, and maybe this wouldn't be relevant, but in the, there's follow-up questions that are asked about whether there's any children or others in the apartment. Would you also ask about animals?
We normally don't.
You normally don't, okay. Yeah.
No, but go back to your other about domestic violence. We
Yeah.
also have information about Marcy's Law that covers just about everything you talked about that we have to provide by law.
Right. Yeah. And so I would just kind of go over those resources with the officers again, like as similar to how you do in the on page 12. You go to page 12. So this box number 4, I think it would be great for, and then the additional considerations, kind of having something similar to that, but with the domestic violence.
What page is that?
Page 12.
The example is page 12 for the mental health resources, and then I'm suggesting that you would put that in under debrief on page 15 or after page 15. Yeah, really well done.
Thank you.
I also liked how in the domestic violence incident, if they did something, they either find the person, or I won't say it because in case officers are watching.
Right.
Yeah, but
You don't want to give it away.
yeah, but it was really good.
No, I agree with that. That was actually one of the things I talked to Commander McGuth about earlier today. I was like, I'm going to pull up the training on the screen. How do you feel about that? But yes, so the other thing I wanted to add was, let me just put this final note here. So page 12. Just really quick, I saw on page 8 when it mentioned team approaches to de-escalation are encouraged and should consider officer training and skill level, number of officers, and whether any officer has successfully established rapport with the subject. Reading that, I thought that the way it was written could imply that de-escalation is optional, just because of how it said de-escalation are encouraged. Can you just give some insight on that?
So they're encouraging the team approach. Say you and I are going on scene and I'm not working. My de-escalation is not working. Let the other officer take over and see if they can de-escalate. Some people work different and work better with other people. In one case, I can tell you when I was out on the road, I had a rapport already built with the family because we worked that zone and they were having issues with officers, but as soon as we rode up on scene, they wanted to talk to us because we had that rapport built in. So that's telling officers, hey, you don't have to do it alone. Let's try the team approach. If it's not working, let your partner take over. Let somebody else take over. Call
Okay. And that makes sense because I saw that in the scenario with the mental health.
I wonder if maybe you could even just add some language that says, de-escalation is attempted de-escalation are always expected. Additionally, team approaches to de-escalation are encouraged. That way it's clear that,
Can you say that again?
that,
De-escalation is,
yeah, thank you.
de-escalation is expected
Yeah,
and the team approach,
is encouraged.
is encouraged.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for that. Did you have anything to add? All right. So, like I said, that was the actual scenario, and then this part here is the presentation with notes added. Well, this is more of kind of like to go along with the scenario, but it's not necessarily, from my understanding, this is not going to be shown throughout the training. It's just kind of like as notes.
No, it's gonna be part of the training,
Yeah.
For the officers who are not going through the scenario right now, so they're gonna go through these as a, so we're utilizing all downtime.
Got it. Cool. And then I didn't have any notes in particular on this section.
Just a quick little note, when Commander McGuth and Lieutenant Smith and I met, I got to see the house. I didn't go in it or anything, but it was cool to see the property where they're doing these reality-based training, because it's just like a real house. But they're able to like reconfigure it, and so just it's cool.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So for this particular scenario and the training curriculum, the full commission has not seen this. So it would need to go to the full commission at the full commission meeting as the next step, if it's, of course, approved by us.
Can we make a motion to approve it with the changes that we recommended?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I can send those over. That's how we would do that? How would we normally do
I'm trying to
that?
remember
Would
how we
we
normally
send
do
it
it.
back?
You
And then-
can make approval with those recommendations, and we'll change it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I move to approve the integrated reality-based training with the changes that we recommended.
Second.
All right, the motion to improve the integrated reality-based training curriculum with the changes that were recommended by the training committee is on the floor and has been seconded. So we will go to the vote. Commissioner Benito
Aye.
and Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
And I, Commissioner Donaldson, is aye. So that has been approved with the changes, and it will now move to the full commission for next meeting. All right, thank you, everyone, for that. Let me save the changes here. All right, so next on the agenda, and we're actually moving much faster than I thought. So this next one here is the state mandated CPT lesson plans. Received these from Commander McGuth, and these are really only to be reviewed. We cannot change or do any edits to these documents in particular. And pretty much all I was going to say. Lieutenant Smith, do you want to add anything about these particular documents, the lesson plans?
The state put them on the lesson plans, and so these are going to be delivered online training. So they are just now putting So they have 2 of them already up for online training, and we're planning on moving ahead with the divisional notice for officers to start completing them. And as they see, we will send out further information once each one comes up. So we're going to move forward with that, and also identify other online training that they have because we're not sure when we're going to get these back. So we want to at least make sure all our officers are covered with the 24-hour mandate from the state. So we're identifying other topics from the state that we can take online, just in case we don't get everything back, because we don't want our officers to go into cease function, and we won't have a police department. So we want to identify those topics, and then we will still send these off to the state to get state approval for CPT hours.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. When officers are doing these online trainings, do they like show up for their shift early? Do they do it during their shift? When do they do these trainings, especially like the field officers?
We leave it up to each district and the district coordinator and the commander to schedule how they use their officers and what time to get it done.
And so it kind of varies.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I did pull up the email that I received about this. So just wanted to reiterate. So these are instructed by OPOTA certified instructors. Got it.
Correct.
All right. And there were 5 individual plans included with this review. I reviewed them. I think, see, I can just open them up individually. See if y'all have any questions about any of them. So this one here is the crisis mitigation lesson plan. And then one thing I did have a question about. So there is going to be kind of a PowerPoint type, like how do these courses normally look? Is it just you sit and you take a course? Is it like a module or?
It's delivered online, and it's sort of like our LMS training, basically.
Okay. Oh, got
And
it.
sometimes they'll have a test in between, just like we do. They might have a test at the end to test our knowledge and things like that. So that's how they're delivered.
Thank you. So crisis mitigation, legal update, responding to mental health, victim rights, and then NIBIN was also one of the lesson plans that we received. NIBIN, so National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. And I scrolled through this one, I was like, what does that mean? And I finally found the slide that told me what it meant. All right, so these also seem to be pretty straightforward. Like I said, we can't really do anything with these anyway. There aren't any amendments we can make. They were really just sent over to us for review.
I move to send this, to approve this from the training committee to send it to full commission for approval.
Second.
All right, so motion has been made to approve the state mandated CPT lesson plans and to send those to the full commission for review. So now we move to the vote. Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and I, Commissioner Donaldson, I am also aye. All right, thank you. All right, so with that, we got through everything that I had listed here. So my question to you all is, crowd management. Did you all have a chance to look at anything? Did you have any thoughts on that? I know it was only sent over yesterday. What are your thoughts on next steps for that?
So I did review it. It's a lot of kind of more legal like analysis that the DOJ and CDP go back and forth on. I felt like the DOJ was really what's the word? Like in depth. Anyway, they were very it was well done. So I agreed with the changes that they recommended, and I didn't have any concerns with what they did. Is it gonna, what's the kind of timeline on that? If we approve that and then if we review that in the next training committee meeting, would that be an issue for timing for you guys?
I don't know how long it takes. Commander Magoo's has the timeline. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the email to see if there was any mention of a timeline. I don't see one either. So my initial thought, because I didn't believe we would get through all of the items that we had here, I was kind of concerned, but my initial thought was to try to get it done or to schedule another meeting before the full commission meeting, but I don't know if you all would want to do that because it would really just be a quick meeting because at this point I don't think we have anything else. So we can also start talking about the bias-free portion that Executive Director Goodrick and I had a conversation about. So we can schedule another meeting and try to do it before the full commission meeting, or we can just kind of hold off on that and wait until the next training committee meeting.
Not to forward the committee, I think is best. I just have a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we're starting to fill up quite a bit before
Okay,
the full commission meeting.
cool.
And with respect for Chair Rodriguez, she may get her what she needs to move forward with police promotions, and that means that hopefully we would have some open days
Okay, yeah,
to fill. If everyone else is filling, then it leaves her in a spot when she gets the necessary legal hurdles cleared. There'll be no available dates, so I would
Yeah.
suggest that
Okay.
we leave some open dates for her to navigate in the hopes that she can move that committee forward quickly once we receive what we
I
need.
do.
okay.
Yes.
No, that all makes sense. So, and I appreciate the comments regarding that. So we will plan on crowd management definitely being on the agenda for the next training committee meeting, and then we'll move forward.
Email and ask Google. I would be open to meeting if you need to.
Okay.
You might be asked.
Okay.
Maybe it's necessary.
Yeah, I'll ask them for a timeline, and then if it's pressing, then we'll reconvene. But
I think what I would request is I am willing to do that, but maybe if we could if we have a 6 p.m. meeting for something, if we could try to do a 5 p.m. meeting right before that meeting.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's like 3 or 4 commission meetings
Yep.
after working week, which is
that makes sense.
challenging.
All right. Well, I will get back to Commander Booth and we'll see. But if we do not have another meeting before the next scheduled meeting, it is scheduled for Wednesday, July 10th at 6 p.m.
Also, I don't know if this is helpful for anybody, but with my new job, I can get here by 5:30.
Okay.
So if that's a preferential time for you guys, happy to do that. Otherwise, 6 also works as well. But I know for me, previously I wasn't able to get here until 6, but I can do 5:30 now.
Got it. Thank you. And noted. All right. So, public comment.
Any legal statutes you wanna?
I'll talk to Sean after.
Could I just go back to the reality-based training
Yes.
event?
Yeah.
Did you get the email from Commander Magoo? I accidentally sent him the wrong date.
Yep.
So my staff is not available on the 17th.
Yes.
So we are available on the 24th.
Yep. Yeah, I got that. I mentioned that right before you walked in. So we're gonna move forward with the 24th, and then next steps for us is to try to do a walkthrough at the high school, and then we'll move forward with planning meetings and those things.
I know you said sent out a date about Friday.
Yeah, you're not available. I haven't received anything yet from Commander Magoo. My hope is that he might be. I mean, the reason why I'm trying to get the walkthrough in is because the principal's schedule, we're looking at that as well. Like he's out next week, and then I'm out the week after that. So I would like to try to get walk in, at least see something or see the space so we can make a decision about if that space is even gonna work for us.
Okay.
So, I mean, if he's available to do a walkthrough, then him and I can just do it.
Well, I
And
would
then I'm
send-
sure
I would
he'll
send-
relay
I'll
the
send-
information.
I'll send one of my sergeants that will be able to assist Commander with it. 'Cause
Okay.
They actually handle the scenarios and setup. So
Yes.
we can send a couple of sergeants and staff to make sure the space is okay for their setup.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I'll just wait on an email from him, and then, like I said, we will try to get that in sooner than later, so that if that space isn't going to work, we can move forward with finding another space.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes. All right. Well, I forgot what happens can I just adjourn? Okay. So at this time, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we will see you all next time.
Good job, Charles.
Yes,
Well done.
in and out, my company.
Yeah, exactly.